This happened a couple of months back when I was shopping at Home Depot. I went there to look at some power tools for some projects around the house that I've been putting off for a long time. I went there on a Friday night because I wanted to get some work done on Saturday. When I got to the store, it was quiet and not many other people were there. I went to the power tools section and looked at a few of them, and looked at some of the tools and their prices to compare. I was the only person in that area until a guy came into the aisle with me and started looking at something. He was at one end and I was at the other. I wasn't really paying attention to him, but I knew he was there, and after he was there for about 2 or 3 minutes, I would say, I saw him coming closer to me. I looked and he was approaching me. The man was really tall, probably 6'5", and wore a gray sweatshirt and ripped jeans. He looked pretty young and had a kind of ugly looking beard. He said hi to me, and I said hi back to the man. He then asked me if I could lend him some money. I told the man sorry, but no, and then decided to walk away. I heard the guy curse under his breath, and I went to another section of the store. It wasn't until I walked away that I realized I forgot the tools, and I hadn't even figured out which ones I was going to buy yet. But I didn't want to turn around and go back to the man because of our awkward encounter. I decided to walk around and get some batteries, which I also needed, and then go back over and hope that the guy was gone by then. I walked around looking for the batteries, which were at the far other end of the store. I got them, and as I was headed back, I saw the man once again. He was walking in my direction now, and we made really awkward eye contact as I walked past him. I didn't know why the guy had asked me for money, but why would I give some random guy at Home Depot money? It was just weird. I walked all the way back to the other end, into the power tools. I got to my original aisle, and was there for about 30 seconds before I saw someone enter the aisle again. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed it was the same man as before. I glanced over for a split second. I saw that he was just staring at me and shaking his head. I didn't know what this guy's problem was, and I did my best to ignore him, but I now realized he had probably followed me to the other end of the store and back. Maybe he was mad that I didn't give him money, but I wasn't going to let him intimidate me into giving him anything. I finally made up my mind and got 2 power tools. Then I headed to the checkouts. As I walked over, so did the man. I was getting sort of annoyed now by this guy following me. I was kind of afraid that he might try to jump me when we got out into the parking lot or something. The man wasn't buying anything and had nothing in his hands. As I was checking out and paying for my items, I saw him just standing behind the check lanes watching me. Now, there were 2 main doors in the store. One at one end, which was kind of the entrance, but you could actually go out of it as well, and another one near the check lanes that was supposed to be the exit. Once I had paid and got my receipt, I started to walk over to the entrance as I was going to leave there because it was farther away from the man. I saw the man then start to head that way as well, and he sped up his walk and started to go way ahead of me. I thought maybe he was trying to beat me outside, so I changed my mind and then turned around and suddenly went out to the other doors. This worked because I didn't see the man turn around, and it was better for me anyways because my car was parked on that side. I felt I had lost the man now, and walked out the doors and left. I got out to the parking lot, and thankfully didn't see the man at all, so I rushed to my car and got inside. I felt relieved to finally be safe and in my car. But as soon as I had just shut my door and looked in the rearview mirror to leave, there he was. He was standing directly behind my car and staring at me. He then yelled at me to get out of my car. I locked the doors and started the engine. That's when the man ran to my rear passenger's door and tried opening it. I quickly backed out and turned to the other direction, then sped away from there. I'm not sure what the man planned on doing, but I'm glad I didn't have to find out. Last summer, my husband and I were doing some remodeling in our home. It was a little outdated, and we decided to do the work ourselves to save money. Plus, my husband is very handy and loves doing projects. I don't know too much about that kind of stuff, but I was willing to help however he needed me to. One day, as we were working, my husband told me some materials that he needed. He was busy and asked if I would go to Home Depot and pick them up for him. He offered to go with too, because some of the things we needed were sort of big pieces of wood, and I'm a pretty small woman, but I knew he was busy and told him I would be able to figure it out. I went down to the Home Depot, and when I got there, I went in and began looking for the things that I needed. I took one of those big carts and was able to find a couple of the things, but then had a sort of hard time finding the others. It was somewhat busy there, and I saw one of the Home Depot employees approaching me. He was a younger-looking man, and asked if I needed help finding anything. I told him yes, actually I did. Then I explained to him what I was looking for, and he led me around the store and we got the final things that I needed. He was very friendly to me, and when we had gotten everything, we headed towards the checkouts. The man then told me he could help me load the items into my car, and said he'd be out in the parking lot. I was happy with that, and told him that sounded great. I then paid for the items and went out to the parking lot where I saw the man waiting. We walked to my car at the back end of the parking lot where I had parked, and he helped me put everything in the back of my car. Once we had finished, I thanked him and told him he had helped me a lot. I then went to my car, but noticed he was kind of standing right in front of my driver's door. I thought it was strange, almost as if he was blocking me from getting inside. I walked up to him, and we both stood there for an awkward second or two. I thought maybe he was expecting a tip, and I asked if I could give him a tip, then reached for my pocket. He said no and shook his head. He told me he didn't want it, but he remained standing in front of my door. I said I had better be on my way then, and reached to get my keys from my purse. As I was trying to find them, I heard the man say, "Looking for this?" He was holding my keys in his hand. I said yes, and was very confused how this man had gotten my keys. I asked him to give them to me, but the man said no. He then told me to get in the passenger's side. I asked him why, and he told me to just do it, and we were going for a drive. He then put his hand on my arm and started to lead me over to the other side of the car. I knew I was in trouble now, and when we got to the door, I opened it, but I swung it around really fast and used it to block the man. I then went around the door so the man's arm was cut off from mine. This broke me free, and I ran away as fast as I could. He chased me at first, but then stopped, and I sprinted back inside Home Depot. When I got inside, I told the first employee I saw what had happened. The guy didn't follow me inside, thankfully. I quickly learned that that man did not work at Home Depot at all. The police were called, and they came by soon after. My car was luckily still there, and the keys were on the ground about 20 feet away. I was able to get home after that, but I'm not sure if the man was ever caught. A couple of years ago, I got a job at the Home Depot. I only lasted 2 weeks there, but I still had some memorable experiences in that short time. I worked mostly just in the back half of the store. I didn't have to speak with customers too much. I really didn't like working there, but we got paid a good amount, which was nice. And after I was hired, I got trained for a few shifts with other people in that area that I worked in. After that, I was able to work on my own a little bit more. In my second week, I was working a late shift one night, and I was in the back end of the store. It was almost completely empty at that time, because it was a weeknight and we closed in about an hour. If you've ever been to Home Depot, you know that the store is kind of like a giant warehouse in a way, and it has really high ceilings. I was by myself near some of the lumber in the back when I started to hear a noise coming from above me in like one aisle over. I looked up, but saw nothing was there, and I realized that it was an echo. It sounded like somebody's voice making a sound, but not really saying anything. I decided it was probably a customer in the next aisle over, but I wasn't sure what they were doing. Then I heard the sound of things falling off the shelves in the next aisle over. I figured I'd better go look, and I went to the next aisle over to see exactly what was going on. I walked around to the other side, but whoever was there was now gone. I did see whoever was there just barely leave and seemingly go to the next aisle. I didn't see them at all besides maybe just the end of their foot, just enough to tell somebody had been there. I saw that pretty much right in the middle of the aisle there were a bunch of pieces of wood that were on the ground now. I went over and picked them up, and then went back to what I was doing before they got knocked off the shelf. But not even 2 minutes later, I heard some more noise close to me, and witnessed more things being pushed off the shelf right in front of my eyes. But I didn't see the person pushing them, because they were on the other side of the aisle. I was kind of ticked off now, and walked over to the other side to find the person. But by the time I got there, they were gone. I picked up after them once again, and looked at my phone to see the time. We closed in just 40 minutes now, and I couldn't wait to go home. Then I heard more noises. This time it was like the sound of a dog barking, but it sounded like a person instead of a dog. I walked over to find the person, and I was fully prepared to kick them out of the store. expected to find some teenage kid or something like that. I walked to where the noise was coming from, but I never saw anybody. As I approached them, they always seemed to move. It's like whoever was there was somehow running from aisle to aisle away from me. Finally, I got to the very back of the store and I saw them. But this did not look like a normal person. It looked like a strange creature. I saw them for a good 5 seconds as it was in front of the back door that was supposed to be an emergency exit. My best way of describing whatever it was is that it looked like a werewolf. I was so creeped out by that I just stood there, frozen. They went out the door, and the fire alarm then started going off because of the door being opened. One of my coworkers came over a short time after and asked me if I had opened the door. I just told them no, somebody else had. I was terrified for the rest of the night, and I quit shortly after.